Hello again, thanks for joining me for another video. So I've recently done a bit of an experiment. I have been a steady meditator for many years, 5 where there really wasn't a break at all from meditating several hours a day. And I needed to do a bit of an experiment because I was finding it to become taxing and unenjoyable. And a lot of times when you get into a routine of any kind, it can lose its luster. The pattern can become so predictable that it's not informing you anymore. It's more of like just this thing that you're just going through the motions. And the same is true for meditating. And so I needed to take a break. I needed to step away from it. And I actually put a little bit of an experiment on it because I was kind of curious if I could go as low vibe as I had been in previous portions of my life where I was just entrenched in trauma and toxic people and difficult situations and needing to constantly ask God to rescue me out of those situations. So I wanted to see what the progress was. If I took my hands off the wheel, would the car go into the ditch kind of experiment. And it was really telling. And I learned a lot through the process. Some of the obvious things that happened that I can pinpoint that you might recognize as things to look out for if you are trying to get into a practice of meditating and find it hard to really find value in it. It's over the long run that the value really gets established. It's the ability to kind of trust the positive forces in the universe to come to your aid by cultivating a relationship. And you would cultivate that relationship and that communion in that silent meditative space. You learn how to calm your nervous system so that you're sending out frequencies that are going to be returned to you. And so I wouldn't recommend the experiment for someone who doesn't have already like a pretty decent trusting, faithful relationship with their own spirit guides. So I fell pretty deeply into some dark states of mind and perspectives on reality. I got very, very hopeless. The hopelessness really spread very quickly. And this was like, okay, so I was just doing like a 6-week. I hadn't been meditating for hours. So I didn't go from meditating for hours a day to meditating not at all. I had already reduced the amount of time I was meditating because I'm so caught up in parenting, basically, and all of the things that go with being a active parent to your child. So it was more like going from my morning, 20, 30-minute meditation and my evening 20-minute, 30-minute meditation to none. Every once in a while I would do like a catch up in the middle of the day, but so I just went to none. But I also went to, can I bring my vibe low? How much security is the work I've already done to secure my kind of higher states of consciousness? How easily can I access them if I bring myself kind of into these lower places that I've been before, processing dark emotions? And it was amazing how quickly the perspective shifted, and from there the feedback loop of negativity was pretty effing strong. It was pretty effing strong. I felt like a sense of hopelessness and a sense of dismay, a sense that the world was never going to right itself, that human beings were kind of a lost species that could never become something else. So like evolution is not a thing, growth is not a thing. It was like a stuck sense of imprisonment, enslavement, just a dark energy that had kind of taken over how I was seeing reality, and I could not, like internally there was always this little like note of the times in the past that I've been helped. So I knew that that note could still be there and rewrite what was being written on my mind. But very quickly, my mind was written with some dark ass shit. Dark. Dark perspectives. And how that began to affect me emotionally, mentally, physically, and my sense of really wanting to be on this planet, wanting to be in this body. It was so complete, the overtaking. I'm actually a little astonished at how one negative thought can quickly, especially I think after you had a spiritual awakening, snowball into some really spiraled, looping, negative kinds of places. So from not meditating and it snowballed into a sense of insomnia that came pretty quickly. And then from there, the things that I do to keep my mental health well were harder to attain. So harder to make sure that I'm eating really well. I have to eat a pretty strict kind of keto Mediterranean style diet. I have a little more carbs than the average keto person has, but not much outside of that. And I couldn't maintain that, so I was eating like 6 pieces of keto bread a day, which was like bogging my whole system down, and I just couldn't get my energy back up. So from being able to run or work out for an easy hour at the gym, it was like, oh, can I even, if I do 20 minutes, I'm going to call it good, 3 times a week instead of every day that I had been doing. So that quickly kind of started going down. So it spiraled quickly. So if you're not getting adequate food, or you're not getting adequate sleep, and you're not taking care of those basic physical sources of energy and fulfillment, it is very difficult to get your mind right. And so what I'm looking at in my real life, in my real physical life that I've been living, where I had to make choices all along the way. I grew up in a very, it's not like come in and choose to be middle class. I came in at the bottom, and the only way I was getting to middle class or upper middle class was by working twice as hard. And to me, it never seemed like it wasn't that it didn't seem like any effort I put towards that direction quickly fell flat on me through multiple layers of intervention. I think it wasn't the path I was supposed to take, and so it would fall apart every time I attempted to do it. And it took me a really long time to just let go that I was not supposed to be living the stereotypical American dream type lifestyle. I was supposed to be cultivating my spirit for a purpose. And so I would go back and forth between those things. So as my energy in this last little bit has gone lower and lower, it felt like, oh my God, what have I done? I ruined my whole life chasing spirit. And I should have been chasing the comfortable life. What have I done? Because I've had, great opportunities in school in the past that fell apart. And so it became a self-blaming mechanism that I was doing here, and I could not remember why I had made the decisions I had made. Everything just got slightly rewritten in my mind as if I was a fool for having loved God, for having chosen to follow the path of spirit and try to cultivate my soul to become a better being, to come out of where I had been planted as a child, and the things that I witnessed and the traumas that occurred, and trying to find a way to cultivate out of that became really, really difficult. So now I'm in a dark place mentally. My physicality is impacted, and my spirit feels crushed. It feels like doubt has replaced where faith used to live. And then with all of that negativity and not really finding any relief from it, I started binge watching reality shows, and I mean binge watching. So now MTV throws out some serious reality shows, right? There's just a mass of them that you can imbibe, and that became my drug of choice for about 2 weeks. 2 weeks I spent where it was the only it was like the only thing that was getting me out of my own negative vibe was watching other people's drama unfold, and kind of the resolutions that would go through the course of, the shows. And it was astonishing to me to go from someone who, I mostly just read and, I have a few shows here and there that I watch. But I'm not big on entertainment anymore. I haven't really, for most of my life, I haven't been huge on the entertainment industry. But then I was really, only in my very loneliest times have I needed to really utilize that as a source of comfort. And that was my greatest source of comfort there. And, but when you're putting all of that into your system, it's one more feedback loop of negativity, right? So then you just get more infused with kind of a dysregulating nervous system, and so everything was compounding. The insomnia, the not eating as well, the not burning off the energy by exercise, feeding my system drama as opposed to drama and trauma, crying, watching people cry, back to back to back shows, people yelling at each other, screaming at each other, crying, sexual relations, all of these things is what was, I was actually finding comfort in it. A sense of emotion that was different than the emotion. I was in my emotion body and I couldn't get out of it. And so watching somebody else's emotion body all activated felt like communion. And then it was kind of like my guides were like, you've gone too far. You need to come back now. And someone sent me an email that they had found me through my blog and sent me an email and wanted to have a conversation. And that conversation scared the shit out of me. Made me realize what realm I had been playing in, and that I needed to exit that realm and get back into my own timeline and reality. So that person went off on, that they had been given a diagnosis and placed on medication due to their spiritual leanings, their investigations into the shaman world, their visions, and had been supported by an esoterically minded family and support system, and they decided that that was all hogwash and that they were super duper grateful to have antipsychotics, so they no longer thought that way. And it was like, oh, that's the last door. I could go behind that door and never come back again, just like him. And that was kind of like the siren call to me of my guides of, remember where this path leads. You can absolutely go on the other side of the door and leave spirit behind, or you can turn around and come back. And so I said, I want to come back. This has been a great experiment. I remember now how much all that shit sucks and why I left it behind. The gaslighting, the negative, draw and feedback, and the cycle of misery that you can very easily pull yourself into. And so it was like coming back into the remembering why we reach out to those who do guided meditation. So that was one of the first things I found, an advanced guide on YouTube who was doing some mantras and prayers over people. And I listened to his hour-long prayer mantra, got that kind of infused into me, and a few other light language. I like light language, and it helps to kind of like shake your spirit out of its funk. So I found a lady who has a few, not very many, but a few light language sessions online, and I just kind of absorbed that in. And so after getting a little bit of help from other people to shake my system up, then I kind of like reestablished my connection and got the insight, I think, into where I had gotten confused about how our consciousness and what we pay attention to is infusing the reality that we are receiving, and why it's important not just to like accept that God is everywhere, but that we're choosing to be a part of that positive growth everywhere that we can. And my own inner fire is important to be taken very seriously and taken very good care of, because it isn't hard to get into suffering. It isn't hard to go right back into suffering. And I think once you've had a spiritual awakening, it's even easier. I think they talk about that in the Bible. Like, once you kick some demons out of your life, if you call it back, they come back even stronger because you're stronger. So what you call into your life is going to be bigger the bigger and stronger you get. And I think that's an important thing to have learned from all of this. And I do not mean to add any like negativity or shade to anybody who, the whole reality world viewership or the people who take those roles on for others, because it did give me a sense of comfort and not loneliness in that moment. And we all are who we are, right? And we can't really escape that. But I think there are things that we can do to improve ourselves and be the best version of ourselves and continue to expand what is possible, like what is really possible. I feel like I shifted to a new timeline now, having done that, and not just shifted to a new timeline, but like firmly established myself into I don't have to wonder as much what's real and what's not real. I know that I can create negativity, and I know that I can create positivity. And I don't have to make everybody else disengage from the negative in order to experience positive myself. And that was what I needed to know for sure, that I'm not, it isn't a fluke. It's a choice that you have to keep on making. And as you make the choice, God shows up. All of the positive forces in our reality show up to make bigger. And we do that for others too. So hopefully I am offering you a little bit of insight if you've been wondering if it's worth it, if it's worth the effort, if it's worth the effort to, drink your water and, remove the toxins from your life and make sure you're getting good sleep, and trying to stay centered in a stillness and a quiet space as often as you can. Just taking the few minutes for meditation every day, so that you can be with your present self and let some of that negativity wash by you, as opposed to getting stuck and clung to you and until you can't see your way out. So I hope you're well. Feel free to leave comments below, and I will talk to you soon.